Hey, it's NPR's Book of the Day. I'm Andrew Limbong. Chanel Miller always wanted to write books for kids.
I wanted to do it. My whole schooling was just counting down the days until I wouldn't have to take math and science anymore. I just knew from the very beginning this is what I wanted to do. And then adulthood, took me on a pretty intense detour. But I feel like I'm back. It's been quite emotional, actually.
Her first book was Know My Name, an acclaimed memoir detailing her sexual assault and the very public trial that came after. But now, like she said, she's back with her first kids book. It's titled Magnolia Wu Unfolds It All, and it's about a girl and her friend traveling across New York City, trying to reconnect lost socks with their owners. After the break, she talks to me about writing a kids book, finding comfort in the kindness of strangers, and what socks say about a person. That's ahead.
This message comes from NPR sponsor Hulu. Don't miss the new docuseries Black Twitter, A People's History from Onyx Collective and Hulu. Directed by Prentice Penny, executive producer of Insecure, Black Twitter, A People's History tells the story of how Black voices found a new home online and blossomed into a force for change while laying down some hilarious tweets along the way. From the memes to the movements, see how this powerful community shapes culture, society, and politics. Black Twitter, A People's History, is now streaming on Hulu.
Well, Chanel, welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Andrew, for having me.
Are you from New York? Are you a New York person?
No, I'm a California person, but you're from New York, right?
Yeah. I'm from New York, and so I have a complicated feeling, like anyone does with their hometown. But this is reading the book is the first time in a while that I was like, I miss New York.
Oh, that's good. Yeah. Balmy nostalgia, nice.
Yeah. Well, I'm just because they're walking around and they're interfacing with their neighborhood so much. It is a very New York book, I feel like, and I'm just curious, as a California person, why'd you write a New York book?
Because I moved to New York on April 1st, 2020, from California. So it was the beginning of the pandemic, and I'd grown up in California in a box house. And your box house is this beautiful nest that you inhabit all day, every day. And then in New York, like I had heard, it's where you go to feel invisible. But when I was living there, I would run the same errands all the time. So post office, grocery store, laundromat, and did that on rotation. And for the first year and a half, that's really all that I did. And so I became hyper visible to those people. And not only was I recognized, like when I came in, they would delight in seeing me. Like my presence was not only noted, it was like celebrated. And it was such a nice mood boost to do errands. And I could never stay in a funk for long because it was always punctured by the people I would see doing my errands. And I think there was this intimacy too of people handling your packages, handling your clothes. Like they were so embedded in my daily life. And really held me throughout that time. And I thought New York is actually really personal and intimate.
Let's talk about Magnolia. She's a New York girly. She's very, she has a lot of feelings. She's kind of a jerk sometimes, but she's kind of aware when she's being a jerk.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about building her out. Yeah,
I think being aware of your jerkiness is like the most you can ask for. But I really love her. The way she navigates the city is very open and unguarded. And I'm someone who is not like that. I'm more of a hunched shoulders and shuffle kind of person. And I feel like when I was younger, I was a little more free, and I still can't put it into practice in my day-to-day life. I'm still a very nervous and hypervigilant person, but I could remember those feelings and wanted to experience them through her.
Magnolia's parents run a laundromat where they have a board of lost socks that were left behind by their owners. And after one very bad day, Magnolia and her new friend Iris decide to return the loose socks to their original owners one by one. Their detective work has them talking to various people in their neighborhood, the barber, the pizza shop guy, the person at the bodega. And along the way, she learns about them and about her own family, too. Magnolia learned so much about her parents, both of her parents actually, but her mom in particular, through third parties. And I'm wondering why that was the route you took for her discovery rather than like the mom revealing all of these things to her in like a dramatic sort of conversation at the end.
Oh, I mean, the same thing happened to me when my mom took me to China to visit some of her childhood friends. And I met them and I saw some of them had grown up and never left where my mom was born. And I thought, whoa, my mom left and created a whole other person of herself. Like, learned an entirely new language and like literally birthed a new person that was her California self. And I didn't realize that until I met her friends and saw this sort of alternate reality where she never leaves China. And I just admired her so much because no one invited her here. No one, gave her a guidebook to building a life here. And she did it somehow, just by making decision after decision. I think there's this, like, with so many of my friends whose parents are immigrants, like, we talk a lot about the hardship, but I also really want to celebrate the openness and willingness to building a life, even when you have no idea how it's going to turn out. I feel like that's part of the core philosophy of the book, right? Magnolia has a sock and she has no idea who it belongs to. And logically, like, there's no real way that makes sense to return it, but she has an intention and goal. And so she sets out anyway, and then chance takes over. One thing leads to another thing, all these interactions. And I feel like life is like that. Like, you have no idea how your life is going to turn out, but you have to be willing to get out the door.
There's other people too that Magnolia learns a lot about. I think every character, she's quick to judge or she has preconceived notions, or she has other relationships with these people and they're either good or bad. She has all these like assumptions about them that are all turned on their head once she gets to know them a little bit. And I'm curious why you think that's an important lesson for like middle grade readers to get a hold of.
For everybody, like, that's the other thing I love about a sock is that you can hide it, but then it's a subtle hint at somebody's personality or some kind of backstory. And it's happened where you can talk to a very serious person in a suit and they're wearing polka dotted socks. You're like, oh, that's nice, And I think it allows her to peel back these layers to people that she thinks she knows. And that happens all the time. Like, as an author who's written very personal stories, people are always presenting the deepest pieces of their insides to me. And it's such a gift that I get to see these things and that they offer them up to me. I feel like I'm in this very unique role where that happens a lot. And I'm always coming home with this feeling of like, wow, I really don't know what people are going through. And I will always be surprised and moved by it.
Yeah. What's your sock stitch right now? What are you rocking?
Okay. You want to see?
Sure.
So sad that listeners
I've got just so
see.
it's fair. I'm wearing like, I think knockoff darn tough wool socks I got from Kohl's the other day. Yeah.
Okay, that's okay.
Yeah.
I mean, it's still chilly.
What do you mean that's the guy? I'm not embarrassed by my Kohl's socks. Come on.
I support Kohl's.
Yeah.
Kohl's, Kmart, I love it. Okay, these are my socks. They are sheep. They're for
orange,
listeners
red?
at
What is that?
home. Yeah, they're cherry red covered in white sheep. And you know what? Even though sheep are sheep, I still believe they're individuals. They all have their little stories too.
It's funny that you were talking about all these like stories that people bring to you, and I imagine on one hand that's such an honor, right, and that's such a responsibility, but it's a lot to sort of take in. How do you manage being a vessel for all of these stories people are telling you?
I think it's by just remaining the vessel and not trying to turn into the healer or the solver. So I used to think when people brought me their stories, that means I need to jump into action to fix the thing. And that was overwhelming because it was impossible. It was a losing game. When I understood that the thing being said out loud was the victory, that's when I was allowed peace. Because by writing a book, I've created a space for people to gather and air the things that they've been sitting on and bearing alone for too long. Like, that's the beauty of the book. And same with this one, like, you allow the stories to come to the surface. And that's what I want. And that's enough for me.
I was listening to you were on NPR when Know My Name came out. And you relayed this story about, you have to remember that like not everyone is there to harm you. And that was something you had to like learn and relearn, which I think is something that you were talking about before, how in Magnolia Woo, these like two girls are just, talking to these neighbors in a way that is so unafraid. How did you come to learn that, or come to understand that not everyone is out there to harm you?
I mean, I was very lucky to grow up that way. I feel like somebody who was really saturated in love, and that made me not street smart and made me pretty naive. And I think as you grow up, you obviously have to look out for yourself and be careful. And when I was hurt in a very public way, it seemed like the message was you need to be more on guard, and shame on you for not taking better care of yourself. And I thought, well, to one degree, yes, it's important to keep ourselves safe, but I don't want to shed the part of me that is so excited to meet and encounter the world every day and the things it'll bring me. I don't want to live in constant anticipation and fear of the worst happening. And honestly, in my life, like, the worst kind of did happen, and I survived it because of the kindness of so many strangers who stepped in and communicated their support to me, who, told me they look forward to a kid's book if I were to ever write one. Like, people in the world have held me through the last decade. It has been such a painful and brutal journey where I really lost sight of what I had to offer the world. And it's been the public, strangers, who have helped me reframe how I see myself and gotten me excited to be in the world again, like promoting books, talking about stories. Of course, you want your kids to be safe and you teach them all these lessons, but you also don't want them to be closed off. And you also want to hope, like, in Magnolia's world, she does feel really lonely at the beginning, but as she goes around her neighborhood, it's so clear that there's so many people who are looking out for her and who care about her and are witnessing her growing up and just keeping an eye on her. And I think that's beautiful too, is like we're never as alone as we think we are. We can rely on the people around us and ask them for help. And that's what she's doing over the course of the book too.
That was Chanel Miller, author of the book Magnolia Wu Unfolds It All. That's it for today. Talk to you tomorrow.
Last year, over 20,000 people joined the Body Electric study to change their sedentary, screen-filled lives. And guess what?
We saw amazing effects.
Now you can try NPR's Body Electric Challenge yourself. Listen to updated and new episodes wherever you get your podcasts.
This message comes from Explore Asheville. How can cities be revitalized? How can the past inform the future of democracy? How much is really known about the unknown? Ponder these questions and more at Asheville Ideas Fest. You'll connect with insightful speakers and enjoy a world-class intellectual experience in a destination made for ideation. Make your plans to visit June 17th through 20th and get tickets at AshevilleIdeasFest.com.
This message comes from NPR sponsor, the Capital One Venture X Card. Earn unlimited 2x miles on everything you buy. Plus, get access to a $300 annual credit for bookings through Capital One Travel. What's in your wallet? Terms apply. Details at CapitalOne.com.